alligators snap, vultures lurch, parrots perch, and have you seen the horn on the unicorn? Down at the Alphabet Zoo.
Back in the doghouse with Duster and Ralph.
Woof.
Now, last time on Alphabet Zoo, it was the letter E. Remember Edna the elephant? But now we've reached the 6th letter of the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F.
Yeah, for fish. Is it a story about a fish?
No, no, not a story about a fish.
For fox?
No, not a fox. I'm going to tell you about an animal beginning with F who had a very special problem. This animal just didn't know what he was.
Sometimes I have that problem too.
And he had a great deal of trouble finding out the answer. I wonder if you'll guess before he discovers the truth for himself. All I'm going to tell you is, his name is Fergus. So, here's the story of Fergus. Fergus was hatched from a very small egg in a very small bucket outside Jimmy Simpson's back door. When Jimmy's mother saw Fergus swimming about, she said, "Oh, put him in the pond with the goldfish. He'll be much happier there." So Fergus moved in with the goldfish. It was a very fancy fish pond with rocks and flowers and nice slimy green corners where Fergus liked to lie sleepy and lazy in the spring sunshine. But Fergus felt different somehow. The goldfish were big and, well, gold, while Fergus was small and greyish. So one day, Fergus spoke to the largest goldfish. Excuse me, he said politely. What am I? The big fish swam slowly round Fergus, examining him with big fishy eyes. Bloop, 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 bloop. Well, babbled the fish, you may be a finny fish. Bloop, 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 bloop. And then again, you may not. You're a very young thing. It's a little bit early to tell. Bloop, 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 bloop. And away the fish swam in a flurry of foam. So Fergus knew he was a very young thing, but he still didn't know what he was. Fergus swam to the top of the pond and peeped out. A furry fox was sniffing at the edge, looking for scraps. Excuse me, said Fergus politely. What am I? The furry fox sat down and scratched his ear to help him think. Well, said the fox, you may be a furry fox. And then again, you may not. You're a very young thing. It's a little bit early to tell. And away ran the fox with a flick of his fluffy tail. So Fergus knew he was a very young thing, but he still didn't know what he was. When night came, Fergus floated on the water and looked at the stars. An owl gazed down at him from the lowest branch of the old oak tree. Excuse me, said Fergus politely. What am I? The owl blinked slowly and stared at Fergus with large yellow eyes. Oh, well, said the owl, you may grow flying feathers. And then again, you may not. You're a very young thing. It's a little bit early to tell. And the owl flew away with a flutter of feathers. So Fergus knew he was a very young thing, but he still didn't know what he was. Then, one very strange day, Fergus hopped out of the water onto one of the pretty coloured rocks. Far away, he could hear some odd croaking calls, and he knew he must follow the noise. A little sadly, he took a last look at the fish pond, for he'd been very happy there, and he hopped, flippity-flop, down the garden, through the hedge, and into the ditch. It was a very long way for a very young thing who didn't know what he was. And when he reached the faraway ditch, what do you think he saw? 72 hopping, croaking green things, jumping up onto the rock and off again. Well, he didn't actually know there were 72 because he couldn't count, but I was there and I counted, which was very difficult because they did jump around a lot. Excuse me, said Fergus politely. I know I'm a very young thing, and it's a little bit early to tell, but what am I? Well, said the nearest hopping, croaking green thing, You're one of us. Then I'm not a finny fish. No, they croaked. And I'm not a furry fox. No, they shouted. And I won't grow flying feathers. All the green things laughed croakily. Fergus was very excited. He jumped up and down happily. I know what I am. I know what I am. I'm a frog. I'm Fergus the frog. And a very fine frog, too, agreed all his green friends. A very fine frog indeed. Oh, Ralph, what a lovely
This is
painting.
beautiful. I always think if you're going to have a frog, it ought to be a fat frog.
Yes, that's
And
true.
they don't come much fatter than that, do they?
No.
That's painted by Lars Meakin of Neville Road School in Bramall.
Oh, yes.
Nice and spotty and...
And look at the eyes on that one over there. I could see them winking at me from right over there when I was telling the story.
Yeah, he's even managed to get a bit of a sparkle in the
Yeah.
eyes of that one. That's from, oh, it's actually from Claire Fenner from Denton Central Infant School. And somebody's forgot to put their name on this one, which
What
is a
a
shame.
shame.
He's a very nice spotty,
Yes, he looks as if he's got measles, black measles, doesn't
spotty
he?
green frog.
Yes.
I think this is a bit special, this one here. It's a sort of a rainbow frog.
Yeah, it doesn't look like an English frog, does it?
No,
They're
no,
usually a
but
bit green, aren't
Much
they?
too jolly. That's another one who hasn't said their name, but that's from Toft Hill School.
Lovely. These are our favourite frogs, but we've got lots more to show you.
Now Fergus, he was hatched from an egg and he lived in a pond in the garden. He was very polite when he said to the fish, Mr. Fish, I beg your pardon. Will I be a finny fish just like you? And the finny fish answered, well, you may be, but you're a very young thing. It's a little bit early to tell. It's a little bit early to tell. One day Fergus saw a fox. He was skipping round the pond in the garden. He was very polite when he said to the fox, Mr. Fox, I beg your pardon. Will I be a furry fox just like you? And the furry fox just said, well, you may be, but you're a very young thing. It's a little bit early to tell. It's a little bit early to tell. Well, one day Fergus saw an owl in a tree by the pond in the garden. He was very polite when he said to the owl, Mr. Owl, I beg your pardon. Will I have flying feathers like you? And the yellow-eyed owl said, well, you may do, but you're a very young thing. It's a little bit early to tell. It's a little bit early to tell. Well, one day Fergus heard some sounds and he left his pond in the garden, and he flipped and he flopped to a faraway ditch where he met some green things croaking. Excuse me, please, do you know who I am? And the green things answered, well, it's plain to see that you're one of us, as anyone here could tell. As anyone here can tell. So I'm not a furry fox, not a finny fish. I know what I am one of you frogs. I'm Fergus Frog and I feel so well. I'm Fergus Frog, anyone can tell. I'm Fergus Frog, I'm a frog like you. I'm Fergus Frog and a fine frog too.
That
was a lovely song.
He was really a furry fish then.
Dear Dusty really liked that song. Every time he said frog, he pricked his ears up.
Oh, that's good.
Do you like frogs, Ralph?
Actually, I do. I've got one in my garden now. We've got a little pond there, and we've got one, and naturally he's called Fergus. It's a nice green and yellow frog.
Oh,
Yeah.
doesn't he feel lonely all on his own?
Well, I've got some tadpoles to go in there with him, so I think he's probably going to
Do you go and talk to him sometimes?
Not when anybody watches.
Gorillas grunt, hedgehogs hunt, zebras play, possums play. Come and meet them all at the alphabet zoo. Come and meet them all. Come and meet them all. Come and meet them all at the alphabet zoo.